science is netting us really valuable research. So the next talk is cross-cultural privacy protection. Yao Li, Alfred Kabasa, Bart Janenberg, and Carolyn Nguyen. And it's Yao who will give the talk.
So hi, good morning. I'm Yao Li, currently a third-year PhD student in University of California, Irvine. So our paper is about cross-cultural privacy prediction. It is based on one of the privacy theory from Altman. So in 1975, Irving Altman, in his book, Privacy and Freedom, described different behaviors that people use to regulate their interpersonal privacy from a rich set of ethnographic data in a variety of cultures. And he concluded that while the capability for privacy regulation is culturally universal, the specific behaviors and techniques may be quite different from one culture to another. So taking this to the technology age, we found that more and more technologies are now used at a global scale, but most privacy studies still focus on a narrow population in a single country. And there are a lot of multinational organizations who have users from different cultural backgrounds, but their data collection strategies are still almost similar. And some of the previous studies have already looked at the culture influence on privacy attitudes or behaviors. And basically, they found that individualism will increase the level of privacy concerns and decrease the information disclosure behavior and increase the privacy protection behaviors. But most of these studies focus on the general privacy attitudes or behaviors. And it has been shown that privacy decisions is highly dependent on the context. So with that in mind, and on the other hand, privacy decision-making support is a popular topic recently because users are faced with increasing number of privacy decisions when they interact with the technologies. And most of the decisions are somewhat complex to users because of three reasons. First, the incomplete information. For example, users, when their personal information is collected, they have no idea where this information will go and who will have the access to the personal information. And heuristics and bounded rationality. For example, when users disclose their personal information to an organization, they will think about the organization's name or reputation instead of the specific privacy practice. And third is cognitive and behavioral biases. For example, our information disclosure is greatly influenced by what other people disclose instead of the comfort that we may feel or the consequences that we may have. So to solve these problems, there has been a lot of solutions proposed to assist the privacy decision-making, such as recommending better decisions for users or educating them about the privacy and the security, or provide some feedbacks before or after the decision. So our approach is following this track. We want to predict users' privacy decisions by first contextualizing the privacy decisions and mitigating the cognitive bias, reducing users' effort, and most importantly, we want to consider the cultural differences, especially the cultural differences that users perceive the contextual and attitudinal factors. With that approach, we want to answer three research questions. First, do we need to include cultural factors in predicting privacy decisions? And second, how should we measure privacy in the privacy prediction? And third, how does culture interact with contextual and attitudinal factors. To answer those, we collect some data, and the scope of the data collection is organizational data collection. So users disclose their personal data to organizations. We run an online survey in 8 countries: Canada, China, Germany, United States, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Australia, and India. And the figures indicate the percentage of the respondent we have in each country. So generally around 12,000 per country. So totally we have almost 10,000 responses. And in the survey, we collected their demographics information, their country of residence, their spoken language, and their general privacy attitudes. And in addition to that, we also randomly show each participant 6 scenarios, each of them containing a combination of 4 contextual variables. This is an example of the scenario. From my mobile device, I will provide my current location and contact list to a service provider. This is a collection method. The service provider is a company with no location in my country, which describes the entity that is collecting the data. The service provider will use the information as I agreed. This is a usage purpose of the data collection. It will also save me time or money, which describes the value exchange from the data collection. Then the participants will indicate their disclosure intent as acceptable or not acceptable. And based on their reported country of residence, we also match the Hofstede's culture values for each country. So a brief introduction to Hofstede's culture framework is that it includes 6 dimensions: power distance, individualism, uncertainty avoidance, indulgence, masculinity, and pragmatism. And on each dimension, each country will score from 0 to 100. So we use 2 methods. The first one is a simple supervised machine learning with decision trees. The input features are demographic features, attitudes, contextual variables, country of residence, language, and Hofstede's culture values. And the outcome variable is disclosure intent, which is binary. So we build model with and without the culture factors, which are country, language, and Hofstede's values. And we found that adding the culture factors improved the performance in terms of the accuracy and F measure. And especially Hofstede's culture values outperform either country or language. We also compare the 6 dimensions of Hofstede's culture dimensions. We found that individualism and indulgence outperforms other culture dimensions in terms of the prediction performance. And as individualism is already intensively studied, we think that indulgence is less studied in the previous literature. So indulgence describes the extent to which people try to control their desires. The higher indulgent a person is, the more important he will perceive the personal life control or the freedom. So it is likely that the more indulgent a person is, the more likely he will be concerned with his privacy. And we also run a set of robustness analysis. We use other supervised machine learning algorithms, and we run each model 8 more times, with each time with 1 country excluded. And we also use other culture frameworks, which are more recent, and we got the same result. And the second method is generalized linear mixed effects model. And this time we add interaction terms between individualism and contextual or attitudinal predictors. We found that adding the interaction terms significantly improved the model fit. And this is the interaction effects between usage purpose and individualism. With the x-axis is individualism, the y-axis is the probability of acceptability. We found that in lowly individualist country, they are more okay with autonomously make decisions and customize the options, while in highly individualist country, these are less okay. And this figure shows that in lowly individualist country, users are more okay with the purpose being benefits the community, providing a compelling value or save me some time or money, while some of these are not very acceptable in highly individualist country. And this shows the interaction effects between entity and individualism. So in lowly individualist country, they're more okay with the government, the employer, or the foreign service provider, where in highly individualist country, they're more okay with the paid service provider or the service provider that they have an existing relationship with. We haven't a figure for this interaction effects, but generally we found that lowly individualist country are more okay with the data collection through mobile devices, while in highly individualist country, they're more okay with the computer. And lowly individualist country, they're more okay with if the data collection is about photo or video that are taken at work, while in highly individualist country, it's more okay in public, and both of them are not okay with at home. And this reflects interaction effects between attitude and individualism. So perception of third-party accountability means that how much the participants think the third party should be accountable for the data collection. In lowly individualist country, it decreased the acceptability, which is a kind of interesting. We think that one reason may be they have different understanding of the third party, as the previous figure showed that they are more okay with government or employer. And it might also reflect the disconnection between privacy attitude and the actual behavior. So in summary, we found that culture matters, and we found that individualism and indulgence is better than other measurements, and we also found significant interaction effects between contextual, attitudinal factors and culture. So we suggest that future privacy research should consider the cultural background of the participants, and they should restrict their research either to one country or control the cultural backgrounds. And cultural values is better than country or language. And we suggest that multinational organizations should customize their data collection strategies. For example, they can differentiate their data collection purpose or value exchange for the users. And we also suggest that future privacy decision support system should incorporate the culture factors, like they can determine the country of residence based on the IP or some other information. And there are some limitations of our study. First, we only have 8 countries, and we only measure the disclosure intent, which may have some disconnection with the actual behavior. And we did not consider the regional culture or language differences. And there are some limitations of Hofstede's cultural dimensions, for example, for equating the nation with culture. But so far, it's the one of the most widely used culture frameworks. So that's my presentation. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
The next speaker come up, and meanwhile, do you want to take questions?
Yes, please.